Gabo say so when we back with another one. We got ESPN's worst nightmare coming true. I'm not gonna hold you, bro. When I tell you I've fallen off from ESPN kind of material, like I don't watch ESPN like I used to back in the day, bro. What was it, like 9, 10 o'clock? First Take was on deck. That was the first thing that started off my morning. That was my breakfast. My coffee and bagel was First Take. Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Now, I don't even know if this video is even about debate shows or anything like that. It's just, bro, I don't catch nothing from ESPN unless it comes through my IG app or an IG post, bro. I don't know what's going on. But apparently, these guys are living their worst nightmare or having their nightmare come true. So we're going to get right into it. Appreciate y'all. Hit the like and subscribe button.
Is he as polished politically as me? Nope.
You guys are banning my friends from coming on my show.
Roll up on me wrong, I'ma let you know that was the wrong way to roll up on me.
I believe Norby Williamson is the guy who is attempting to sabotage.
So we have a pretty interesting update in regards to Pat McAfee and ESPN, and a storyline that has been very captivating to follow over the past year, as Pat McAfee and Stephen A. Smith got into an explosive verbal altercation a few weeks ago, reportedly. Now, before we get to the content, I want to say that I look up to both Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee. I mean, Pat McAfee's jersey is on my wall for a reason. It's not my intention to come off as slanderous.
I never even noticed that.
More to report on a rumor that I heard online that a lot of us are talking about. So make sure you drop a like.
The amount of times I've watched Microphone's content, I've never paid attention to the Pat McAfee. My son has a jersey of a punter hung up on his wall. Now, McAfee's goated for what he's doing as a commentator or like a sports talk show host. But as a pundit to have his jersey retired is wild.
Turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. Now that we get all that out of the way, we're hooking up, buddy, with a show filtered. You're wondering whether or not this would be the right fit. As a fan of ESPN, he was when Pat McAfee for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? When Pat McAfee initially decided to leave FanDuel TV, where he was under contract for 4 years and $120 million to go to ESPN, a lot of people were wondering whether or not this would be the right fit. As a fan of the Pat McAfee show, a huge reason why I enjoyed the show to begin with is because Pat was his fully unfiltered self. It was a breath of fresh air, and it's not what you would typically see from the individuals yelling at each other on First Take or on Undisputed. Pat had full creative control of the direction of his product, and that's why his fans loved him so much. At the same time, it was a great opportunity for Pat McAfee to expose himself to a legitimate national audience, which he was already doing a great job at doing, but going to ESPN was a different animal. He was going to be on national television, doing the show that he loved, and he had the backing of ESPN producers. The flip side, at least, on the profanity. And for the most part, I didn't really see an issue with the Pat McAfee show and ESPN. Nothing too big. I mean, yeah, you saw less of Ian Rappaport and a little bit more of Adam Schefter whenever they reported on NFL Inside News. And every single time Aaron Rodgers appeared on the show, ESPN executives were sweating a little bit, but you didn't really see anything substantial happen until Jimmy Kimmel and Aaron Rodgers got into a fight. Now, the inception of this fight was from the Pat McAfee show, where Aaron Rodgers made an appearance on the Pat McAfee show, was his usual unfiltered self, and then commented on Jimmy Kimmel's potential involvement on the Epstein flight logs. Jimmy Kimmel obviously took offense to this, and not only did he post a 5-paragraph essay claiming that he was innocent on his Twitter page, but he started roasting Aaron Rodgers' education.
A guy who went to community college, then got into Cal on a football scholarship and didn't graduate, someone who never spent a minute studying the human body, is an expert in the field of immunology. He just put on a magic helmet, and that G made him a genius. Aaron got 2 A's on his report card. They were both in the word Aaron, okay?
Now, this put Pat McAfee in a very difficult position.
That was pretty good, though.
The reason why this show was able to explode in popularity was because of Aaron Rodgers' involvement in the show. An individual that is regularly misunderstood by traditional media finally had an outlet to reach his fans and more. And in order to get this type of information, you had to watch the Pat McAfee show. You had to see the Pat McAfee show watermark on the upper portion of your screen. You would be exposed to Pat McAfee himself and his personality, which has routinely brought in brand new subscribers for the show. And this put both Pat McAfee and ESPN in a difficult position. You can't tell Pat McAfee that Aaron Rodgers can't be on your show anymore, which apparently there was a day where we thought that Aaron Rodgers wasn't going to be on the Pat McAfee show anymore. before showing up on the Pat McAfee show a few days later. There was a lack of consistency here, and a huge reason why was apparently as a result of the liability Rogers has incurred by linking Kimmel to Epstein. Rogers' remarks could prompt Disney to tell ESPN to ban Rogers from McAfee's show. Now, McAfee's reaction to this was quite brilliant. He understood his involvement in platforming this beef and even empathized with the way that Jimmy Kimmel felt.
See, don't like the fact that we're associated with anything negative ever. That is Aaron and Jimmy. They've been
jousting a bit.
There's accusations made about people that can lead to lawsuits. Why Jimmy Kimmel felt the way he felt, especially with his position. But I think Aaron was just trying to talk shit now.
But he wouldn't be finished there. A few days later, Pat McAfee declared war on the ESPN executive that he felt was trying to sabotage him, an individual by the name of Norby Williamson.
Now, there are some people actively trying to sabotage us from within ESPN. More, I believe Norby Williamson is the guy who is attempting to sabotage. 100% sure that is just seemingly the only human that has information. Information gets leaked and it's wrong.
Now this is where things get really fascinating, because you don't typically see these types of things come to light, especially when you're working for ESPN. But since Pat McAfee is notorious for being very open with his fans, I guess we got a bit of an inside look at this. But that wouldn't be the only ESPN executive that would get called out. Aaron Rodgers would appear on the show 6 days later, and he would call out another ESPN senior vice president of production, Mike Foss, this time blaming him for the fact that there was beef with Jimmy Kimmel to begin with.
I think Mike Foss watched the clip. I feel like I made a statement.
Foss right now is sitting.
I didn't even know all this was going on.
Watching this, just
Now, right when this beef could really hit its apex, Pat took a little bit of a break as a result of the NFL season concluding. But he would go on the All the Smoke podcast to break down his war with the ESPN suits. And this is what he had to say about it.
Like, I thought that was a warning shot to that guy. You know, I didn't even think that was
a direct hit.
Yeah, because I'm the executive producer of my show. I report directly to Jimmy and Bob. So I'm not really viewing anybody as, like, I saw everybody like Pat calls out his boss. I don't got a motherfucking boss. Which is hilarious because he's the former president of the place. I guess a lot of people had a lot of fear of him. I did not. Like, I do not have, that guy left me sitting in his office for 45 minutes, no-showed me when I was supposed to have a meeting with him, right? When 5 years ago, 6 years ago, whatever.
No-showed you.
No-showed, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so
And you remember that?
What's that?
Never forget shit like that.
This thing's a fucking elephant brain, buddy. He also banned all my friends from coming on my show. So there was a ban of ESPN talent on my show on YouTube that came directly from him, which so much so that I started a hashtag ESPN stinks the day that everybody got banned from my show. It only trended for like 8-9 hours or something like that. And then that's the next day is when I met Jimmy Pitaro. Jimmy Pitaro called me and said like, hey, how do we, what's the deal? And I told him about, you guys are banning my friends from coming on my show. Matt Hasselbeck, who worked at ESPN, Jeff Passan worked at ESPN, Dan Orlovsky worked at ESPN. All these people that I've known since before they got into ESPN, like they're not even allowed to come on my podcast or whatever, or my YouTube show. You guys banned it. So like, that guy was not a fan of me. I'm a fan of SportsCenter. We all watch SportsCenter. I grew up on but there became like a war almost from behind the scenes from like SportsCenter people and like people that have been at ESPN a long time against us coming in and taking their jobs and all this other shit. And I didn't see it like that. We were like pumped that we made it to the big leagues. Like, hey, I'm pumped that we're on a worldwide league. Like that's how I viewed it. And this is what I'm talking about playing a checkers player. Like, get the ESPN deal done. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, we joined the ESPN team. So lucky to be here. We get access. And then immediately it's like, this guy sucks. This guy's ruining ESPN. And it's not coming from people outside ESPN. It was coming from people within ESPN. And I did not expect that at all.
I want to say that it's really unprecedented to see Pat go through this. The only thing I can really think of that even compares to this is what the FaZe Clan went through, or whenever an artist gets signed by a big record label. Their product gets watered down. They don't have as much control as they once did, but there are so many benefits to being with a big corporation like ESPN, and it seems like Pat is struggling with those consequences. On one hand, you are working for Disney, a company that needs to be politically correct and appeal to the masses as much as possible.
Of course.
A company that can't have Aaron Rodgers coming on and throwing out whatever theory that comes to his head. Whether you agree with it or not, it's not good for business for Disney to experience that. On the other hand, it's this type of content that got...
And the crazy thing is, Pat McAfee, with the projection that he was on before making that deal with ESPN, this dude was going to get to this point eventually. It's just when you co-sign with ESPN, they're a machine. It's kind of like the analogy Microphone just used with whenever an artist signs with a big record label. It's either he has clout as an independent artist, but when you sign with a record label, these guys have the powers and the connections to push your things, your content times 1,000s. Like to more masses, to a longer range of audiences, to different countries. Like, these dudes have power. The thing is with Pat McAfee, in my opinion, what made him stand out was the mere fact that he was just himself. You know what I mean? Cursing, just talking shit, covering hot topics, and not holding back. And he didn't have anybody he had to answer to. You know what I mean? So I get why he took the deal with ESPN, because the money is like, come on, bro. Like, I'm making this money, but y'all gonna double my income, plus give me a wider audience, and you're letting me executive produce my own content. But it's the politics, bro. ESPN is PC as it gets. It's just fake. ESPN is just fake. Like, I've seen it time again with some of the hosts that they would have come on First Take. You just kind of felt like, all right, Disney's running this. Disney and ESPN, so I see the nightmare spin. Can't sell your soul, man.
Begin with, it's this type of content that his audience enjoys, and it's this type of content that'll keep the viewers coming back. So for a core fan of the Pat McAfee show like myself, I enjoy when Aaron Rodgers comes out and shows his toe and throws out whatever theory he's thinking of, or whatever darkness retreat he wants to do, or talks about his ayahuasca trip.
Hold on, ESPN paid $85 million to air Aaron Rodgers' conspiracy theories? Who they paid? They made $85 million? Like, they paid Rodgers for what?
But if you're some guy flipping through the channels and you just have ESPN playing on the background, you see the Pat McAfee show come on, and next thing you know, Aaron Rodgers is saying,
I can't wait to see Jimmy Kimmel on those Epstein lists.
If you don't agree with his views, it may rub you the wrong way. So at this point, you know where Pat McAfee stands with ESPN, and I hope that I gave you a little bit of an insight towards his struggle, because I can really empathize with that struggle. But the man that was the face of ESPN for the past decade is none other than Stephen A. Smith. Whether you love him or hate him, you have to admit that Stephen A. Smith is a legend in his career. He is the main reason why First Take is the #1 sports debate show in the United States, consistently making the right moves, and is a legend in this industry. But he is prone to giving polarizing takes, whether that has to do with sports.
It's a more unstoppable offensive player. It's a 5-on-5 game. LeBron James or Kevin Durant?
Kevin Durant.
Incorrect.
Kevin Durant.
LeBron James
Kevin Durant.
is a
What are you watching?
far more unstoppable
What are you watching?
offensive
Far
player.
far more unstoppable. That's
Far
a joke. That's a joke.
Offensive player.
Excuse me, I didn't.
We're bringing up something political. At the same time, he's still trying to grow his podcast. And whenever you're trying to grow your podcast and there's more exposure to you talking for a longer period of time about whatever you like, you're more prone to saying things that may be a little controversial, but you can leverage that controversy into more viewership. A few weeks ago, Stephen A. Smith went on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast and discussed Pat McAfee's views on politics and how he doesn't need to be as polished because he's white.
I love Pat McAfee.
He's a man.
Love him to death. He's an honest brother. He don't I'm gonna let you know exactly where he stands. That's my kind of dude. Now, is he as polished politically as me? Nope. Because he has no desire to be. Number one. And number two, if we're being honest, he's white and I'm black. He didn't have to be.
Now, bear in mind, Stephen A. Smith said he loves Pat McAfee. He has a lot of respect for Pat McAfee.
Nah, I'm gonna disagree with that, because
these are just his views.
He's white and I'm black. Did you expect me to apologize for that? I want to talk about Pat McAfee.
I mean, that's a fact, but I don't see why color had to be thrown into when we're talking about being politically correct or being polished. White folks are as polished as it gets whenever it comes to PC. You know what I mean? Like, they're the number ones that will put a suit and a tie on and still snake you, but call black people in the hood thugs, even though they're doing the same kind of, even though they're moving and behaving in the same type of way, snaking, sneaking, doing things behind people's backs, being con artists. They just do it in the suit and tie. That's as polished as it gets. I'm not going to say a white man doesn't have to be polished. Now, when it comes to I guess, politics, right? I don't like the fact that skin color was thrown into that.
Pat McAfee being at ESPN. Let me be very, very clear about where I stand. That's not about Pat McAfee. That's about anybody white. The rules are different for us. The rules are different for black people. Any white person that wants to deny that, be my guest. There is history spanning decades that proves such a thing. I was not talking about Pat McAfee. I was not talking about his show. I support him and his show. The more successful they are, the more successful I become. I've said it before, and I'll say it again many, many times over. Hell, whether he believes it or not, I don't even know. We've never really talked about it. I can tell you this for a fact. One of the greatest things that ever happened to somebody in my position is Pat McAfee and his show coming to ESPN and them getting paid. Because you set the market.
Which, by the way, I agree with, and I think that's a beautiful way to look at sports media. Especially a person in my position. If I see Pat McAfee's viewership taking off, which I view him in a completely different stratosphere from myself. Maybe one day I'll make it there, but I still view him as that way. Or if I see someone like Brett Coleman or That's Good Sports crushing it, I think of it as that's good for me. Primarily because I feel like if there's interests in football content, then that usually bleeds over to other channels. And in the case of Stephen A. Smith, I do agree that Pat McAfee was very good for him, especially if you're trying to go into podcasting. This man quite literally set the blueprint up for you. So according to Ryan Glass-Steagall of the New York Post, McAfee and Smith were recently involved in an explosive argument, with the former All-Pro punter calling the First Take host a motherfucker. Per Glass-Steagall, the dispute stemmed from creative differences regarding a yet-to-be-announced project of Smith's, which will be produced by his production company and air on ESPN. It's not exactly clear from the Post what element of the project McAfee and Smith didn't agree on, why McAfee would be involved in Smith's production in the first place, or why things escalated so severely. The argument occurred several weeks ago, with the Post initially hearing that Smith had banned McAfee from future appearances on First Take. Reached by the Post, both McAfee and Smith deny that such a ban is in place and downplayed any bad blood between each other. Now, I want to say that I could believe that there's no bad blood between the two, and it wouldn't shock me if the media just got a snippet of Pat McAfee saying, you motherfucker. Maybe even in a joking camaraderie type of way. But at the same time, even if these two were beefing, I don't think they would admit it outright that they were beefing. I mean, McAfee said, I have nothing but love for Stephen A. I think I'm still welcome on First Take. I was scheduled through football season to join on Tuesdays. Hopefully next year that'll happen as well. Stephen A. Smith also said that Pat McAfee and I have no issue, and the notion that he'd be banned from First Take is BS. We are number one, and he has absolutely contributed to us remaining number one. McAfee was asked to come on each Tuesday through the Super Bowl, and he did just that, kicking ass each time he came on air. Smith added, if McAfee wants to be on First Take next season, he'll be on First Take. I love winners, and McAfee has proven he wins, which helps me win. I don't know how many times I have to tell folks that he's trailblazed a path into a new era for so many of us. I'm grateful to have him as part of my team and the ESPN family, and I'm looking forward to having him on for years to come. I sincerely hope that I will not have to repeat myself on this nonsense again. On one hand, I'll go to Stephen A's defense. He does have to repeat himself again by saying, hey, I want you to know that if this man's successful, I am successful.
I support him and his show. The more successful they are, the more successful I become. I've said it before, and I'll say it again many, many times over.
At the same time, I don't think Stephen A. Smith is always real with us. I mean, do you remember what he said about Max Kellerman's five?
He capped about Max Kellerman forever, bro. Forever. Like hell no, ain't nobody buying what Stephen A. got to say. Stephen A's as PC as it gets, bro.
And the reason why he didn't work out with Max Kellerman. Now, I think this part's a reach. Some people are even saying that this clip could be a reference to Pat McAfee, but I don't really see how.
I got a couple of pet peeves. I can't stand a drunk ass person coming to me. I don't like it. I don't like it. I think that it's incredibly challenging and self-deprecating for you to compromise your alertness. I don't like drugs. I don't like alcohol. I'm not trying to fight anybody. I don't want conflict, but I ain't scared of it. If you roll up on me wrong, I'ma let you know that was the wrong way to roll up on me.
At the end of the day, do I think Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee are beefing? I'm not really sure, because I think both of these individuals are professional enough to not tell the whole world that ESPN's top talents are beefing. So I'll let that for you to decide. Let me know in the comment section down below. Do you think something's going on between Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee? If so, why or why not? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.
It's crazy. What's going on in 2024, bro? We got comedians chopping each other's heads off. We got ESPN co-workers fighting. Like, it's like, what? What is this? But this was ESPN's worst nightmare come true. At the end of the day, bro, Pat McAfee, ESPN, y'all both can't complain because y'all both knew what y'all was getting into when y'all signed up to work together. Sorry, not sorry. At the end of the day, y'all both rich. But, like, you already know with Pat McAfee, he was always going to bring on Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers is going to say whatever the hell he wants to say, whether it's right or wrong. And it's crazy how he triggered Jimmy Kimmel, and Kimmel put out a post that went viral about Rodgers. And now ESPN is like, was like pressing Pat McAfee about it. And it's like, yo, once you reach that altitude, that space, that aura, I mean, I don't know, bro. I just think it's politics every day, any day when it comes to ESPN, bro. But we'll find out. We'll see how it ends. This was ESPN's worst nightmare came true. Hit the like and subscribe button for more content. I'm gonna holler at you guys next video. I'm out.